The whole order. Start with the roll. Mr. Taberky. Mr. Ray Culbertson.
Here.
Mr. Schultmeyer.
Present.
Mr. Bob Culbertson.
Here.
Ms. Bettinghouse.
Here.
Ms. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Hausfeld is absent with good reason. But the record shows 6 members present, 1 member absent. All right. At this time, can I have a motion to approve the written minutes of the March 5th
Mr.
council
President,
meeting? Ms. Bettinghouse.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the minutes, written minutes of the March 15th council meeting.
I'll second it.
A motion by Ms. Apologize. If we could at this time have a moment of silence for longtime police department employee Sandy Rapine, who passed away a couple weeks ago, as well as Springdale police officer Kaya Grant, who passed away this past weekend in a wreck out in Springdale. So, a moment of silence, please. Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is discuss moving the committee of the whole to the 2nd Thursday and the council meeting to the 4th Thursday. Let anybody jump in. Any comments? Any?
I don't know if this saw or not, but I think the last meeting, Peggy kind of made, a point that it makes the most sense to kind of flip these two. So since she's the person that's most, I guess, directly impacted, I have no problem with doing that.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to, actually, if there's is there a motion to make the change to the committee of the whole to the 2nd Thursday and council to the 4th?
Mr. President,
Mr. Ray Culbertson.
I'll make that motion to make those changes.
I'll second that.
A motion by Mr. Ray Culbertson, second by Ms. Bettinghouse, to move the committee of the whole to the 2nd Thursday and council to the 4th Thursday. Are there any remarks? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Not quite sure when we're going to be meeting again, but at that time, we will need an ordinance to make that change to the council rules. Thank you, Valerie. All right, at this time, we'll move to reports of administrative officials. Mayor, Mr. Stuchel.
Thank you. I need to start by thanking everyone for their cooperation and efforts as we work through this difficult time. Our administrative team and City Hall staff are absolutely incredible, as are the village departments who are working tirelessly. I would also like to thank the community for their understanding as we've restricted access to City Hall for the safety of our staff. The phones are still being answered, but we are doing staggered and alternating schedules for our staff's protection. Currently, 19 of the 49 jurisdictions in Hamilton County have declared a state of emergency in response of COVID-19. In consultation with our emergency management agency, the Ohio EMA, and Hamilton County Administration, our agency, being the EMA in Hamilton County, is strongly recommending that those jurisdictions that have not declared a state of emergency consider doing so. There's already been a federal declaration for this event, and they've been notified by the Ohio EMA that this reimbursement will likely be available for local communities to offset some of the cost related to this incident. While it is not a requirement to declare a state of emergency in order to be eligible for these funds, doing so is a recommendation for best practice to demonstrate to FEMA that the impact of your community was extraordinary and warrants reimbursement as part of this event. It is also important to note that if we have not done so already, we should be tracking our jurisdiction's cost as it relates to COVID-19. Related to those expenses, just so you're aware, management, as far as control and reduction of immediate threats to the public health and safety, is included for emergency operations, training, and disinfection. There are also emergency medical care expenses that could potentially be offset. Medical sheltering, if any temporary facilities would need to be set up in our jurisdiction if the hospitals get overwhelmed. Household pet sheltering and containment would also potentially be covered. Purchase and distribution of food, water, ice, medicine, and other consumable supplies. Personal protective equipment, movement of supplies and persons, security and law enforcement, communications of general health and safety, information to the public, search and rescue to locate and recover members of the population requiring assistance, and reimbursement for state, tribe, and territory of local government force of overtime costs. Just so you're aware, as of right now, to date, there have been declarations of emergency made in the city of Cincinnati, Anderson Township, city of Norwood, Colerain Township, the city of Wyoming, the city of Loveland, the village of Lockland, the village of Woodlawn, the city of Deer Park, the city of Springdale, the city of Harrison, the village of Silverton, village of Evendale, city of Montgomery, city of Reading, Green Township, village of Arlington Heights, village of Gulf Manor, and the village of Lincoln Heights, and of course Hamilton County, the state of Ohio, and of course a presidential disaster of declaration. So as of right now, our goal would be, is if possible, looking for the support for resolution number 5, basically allowing a state of emergency in the village of St. Bernard with the intent to be able to move forward with municipal operations without having to come together as a body unless necessary. Just to let you all know, in corresponding with the executive director of ICRC, Tim, we are going to be able to actually have a virtual meeting set up through them, a Zoom meeting, but we would be able to have it recorded and allow for it to be utilized as far as just as our current meetings are. We could have staff, or could have all of the staff online. We could end up having the community involved, and all of it would be recorded and taped and would be accessible and broadcasted as well. So that would be my goal to move forward. Now, of course, the House bill that's being passed, it's supposed to be signed tomorrow by the governor, so we should be able to still be able to move forward with that. But it is my intent to not bring everyone together in person until this event clears. I don't see it being necessary. In fact, I would actually even like limited access to City Hall. I think the less people in the building, the better. So if anyone has any questions regarding, resolution number 5, please feel free. The law director is very capable, of course, and versed on this. But that's all I have for right now.
Mr. President.
Mr. Bob Culberson.
Jonathan, not related to Resolution 5, but you said we're alternating days for city or village employees at the inside City Hall. Have we looked at, are these individuals able to work from home? And why wouldn't we just say, okay, let's, eliminate that thread and let them work from home instead of, running that risk if someone, God forbid, comes down with it, they could affect the place today, and then tomorrow people come in and they're going to still be touching the same things, using the same equipment.
Okay, so as of right now, we have utilized some staff that's able to work from home. There are still functions of the tax administrator that still have to be done in person. We still need to make sure that vital deposits are made daily. There is still money coming in regularly. That still needs to that management function still needs to take place. And in all honesty, I still would like the phones answered here daily. Do not want it to go to have to go to and be responded to from a voicemail or whatever. I still think it's necessary for us to be on site for right now, unless it's absolutely necessary that everyone stay out of here. But we have reduced the staff enough where we're alternating days for individuals, or offsetting so that people aren't working within close proximity of each other. Everyone's, their best practices, of course, happening internally. But I don't want to shut down City Hall at this point until it becomes absolutely necessary.
Mr. President.
Mr. Taberky.
And we are disinfecting, I apologize, as well, regularly. And we have people cleaning daily.
Looking at Resolution 5, I'm not in favor of Section 3. We'll get rid of competitive bidding. I don't know why we have to get rid of competitive bidding on stuff.
Law Director, would you like to potentially look at this?
This would only be during the period of the emergency declaration. It's for, and it envisions us being able to get whatever emergency-related supplies that we need. We're not talking about necessarily everyday functions, the kind of things that we would normally put out to bid. But if there's something that we need, and we need to get it quickly, and we can't get to all of you, God forbid you should all get sick, this gives us the ability to move forward to do what we need in this emergency situation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Jaberke.
I'm not talking about the pre-authorization of council, I'm talking about the bidding.
Mr. President,
Hold on.
oh, yeah.
Mr. Bob Culverson.
I don't know, Jonathan, do we have to put it out, put it in the paper for so many days and then give a certain amount of time for competitive bidding? I would think to avoid the competitive bidding and the time delay, I could be wrong on that.
Okay. Is it on? Okay. First of all, this is a resolution that was provided to us. It is what all the other communities are doing. Nobody up here is going to try to do something like go out and buy something and try to sneak things in. I've been getting a lot of interest in this, and it somewhat is frustrating that some on council don't trust people to do this the correct way. Like, it gives the auditor the authority to transfer funds if needed, like for overtime. It does not give me authority to go buy myself a car, okay? Which is, I'm hearing all kinds of lovely things out there. So I think when you look at the bidding, we're not gonna go buy something. So I think, from what I'm gathering, you're looking really hard at this, too hard than you really need to, because nobody's going to try to pull anything. I think you need to have trust in your administration and see what's going on in the world and know that that's not what's going to happen. But like, for an example, and this is used like for tornadoes. So basically, it's a resolution that all the communities use in a thing of emergency. So I'm sure that one reason for that might be, and they're say the whole roof goes off of City Hall. Okay? We're gonna not have time to go out and bid and do that. So in that aspect. Or like say, I don't know how to put it, but I hope I'm making sense. It's just, this is for emergencies. No one's gonna cheat anything or try to sneak anything through. And I think the sooner we realize that, the better. And we realize what's going on in the world and realize we're just trying to do the best we can for our community. This resolution came from the League of Local Governments. It is not even something we created. It's the same resolution that all the communities are passing, the ones that Jonathan said. And it's to cover us and to help us get FEMA grants. And, as far as I know, we're not going out to do any major things during this, especially when people aren't even working. I don't see us building buildings and doing new roads.
Anyone else?
Mr. President.
Mr.
So
Stooge.
just to try to offer a little bit of reassurance about the spending, I was not, even before this health crisis came along, really necessitating the need for a state of emergency, I'd basically already stated that we were not going to be, other than the grant that came available for the purchase of the radios, which was a necessity because it was probably never going to come around again, I had zero interest in any major equipment purchases at this point. Was not going to authorize the purchase of any vehicles or even the discussion or entertaining of any contracts till the end of second quarter. So unless it's an absolute emergency because we have a need for a purchase of equipment relative to this health crisis, there isn't going to be anything out of the ordinary than what we're experiencing in day-to-day operations. There will not be anything. And my goal would still be to, again, stay in close communication with everyone, and if and when we can, and if we need to still try to be able to have a meeting, if necessary, as this progresses. But nobody knows. I mean, this is in the beginning stages of where we'll be, how many of us will be well, how many of us will be capable of doing so. But I still would like to make the efforts of trying to set up the necessary virtual meeting if need be. but it does at least give us, the tools to move forward if indeed we're not able to do so.
Mr. President.
Ms. Bettinghouse.
So I was one of those who did contact Valerie to ask her if she could give me a little bit more detail relative to not just this resolution, but what's inside of the Ohio Revised Code. Because as you know, they have a language in there that sometimes is just kind of ambiguous and hard to understand. My reasoning, and then I did speak to Jonathan today, and the reason for that is I need to be able to explain to people what this means in simple terms. And that's the only reason why I'm asking this. It's not because I don't trust the mayor and I don't trust what this resolution is about. Trust me, I know what we're going through with me being in healthcare. But my purpose for doing that, so if anybody heard that I reached out, it was because I needed just to understand it myself in my detail where I can explain it in more simple terms.
Mr. President, I'll be real quick.
Ms.
I
Bettinghouse.
wasn't speaking.
Ms. Berkowitz.
What it was is I've just been hearing people think that I'm going to run crazy with this budget, and I'm not. You know, it's going to be the same budget. I'm going to have the same principles as I always have. You just have to put a little more trust. And in all honesty, the only time I see anything probably occurring is if this virus wipes out one or two of our departments or like a unit, we're going to have overtime. There's not enough line. You know, that's the only thing that I really foresee using it, and nothing else. And like I said, you know, trust us that that's all I'm going to do.
Mr. President,
Mr. Bob Culverson.
real quick for Peggy, are you setting up any lines, or are you keeping track, I guess Jonathan was saying, the expenditures for overtime or disinfectants or anything like that?
Ms. Berkowitz.
Mr. President,
Ms. Berkowitz.
we are. I mean, basically, that's about all we've really had at this point, ordering thermometers and disinfectants and things like that. But yes, we're keeping track of that.
Anyone else?
Mr. President,
Mr. Schultmeyer.
yeah, this might be a question for Jonathan, I don't know. Is there an expiration date on this, or how does it come to an end?
Mr. President, so based on this, on Section 9, it would basically be the resolution shall be enforced from and after the earliest date allowed by law and shall remain in full force and effect until the emergency is no longer exist. So basically, once the Ohio Director of Health and the Director of the EMA deem this as not being a continued health emergency or state of emergency, it ends. So it would be over at that point. And also, while I'm here, just real quick, just to try to make sure that, you know, the Section 2 under the Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 5502, basically stating the mayor being the chief conservator of peace, I mean, it doesn't give me any additional powers than basically don't already exist, and it doesn't mean that we're going to be going around shutting down businesses or anything like that. Everyone we're doing right now is trying to promote as many of our businesses that are legally able to operate, to promote the community, to patronize them. Our biggest goal right now is to try to keep as many people in business that can be and can legally operate. The only reason that there would be any intervention at all would be as if any of the businesses that are operating outside of the governor's orders that are not legally able to. But we are here to try to promote, you know, the people in our community and outside, to try to patronize our folks that are actually, in all honesty, struggling right now because they can't operate in full capacity. So I think it's our goal is also to try to continue to support them and promote them, to hope that when this all ends, that everyone comes out of this and is still able to be in business. So I don't want anyone to think that there'll be anyone shut down.
Mr. President.
Mr. Zaberki.
Jonathan, we talked the other day about the business on Greenlee Avenue. Did you talk to Mr. Stoker about that?
Yes, I did. I didn't realize that was going to come up right now, but yes, I did.
We can talk about it later if you want, no matter.
I have no problem. We can take up that's fine. So yes, I did talk to Mr. Stoker, and I was going to advise you if you could have the owner of the property to please contact him. It would depend upon the proposed use as to how the language would be written. Basically, it would not require the zoning change to come through council. It could be done by, you know, a hearing with the zoning board. But the language would have to be written specific to the proposed use. So unfortunately, we would need to know if the proposed purchaser, what type of business and use. So it can be resolved.
Mr. President.
Mr. Zaberki.
As we discussed, one business, he said he had talked to Mr. Stoker, Mr. Stoker said no way, so.
Mr. President,
Mr. Stuchel.
Mr. Stoker has researched that further, and I did speak with him about that, and I am telling you exactly what he said to me yesterday, and that's how it will proceed, and I will stay involved in that. But he has come up with a way to resolve that and to make it work for a potential different use than what has been there in that place for an exorbitant period of time. So there is a possibility that we can make this work for everybody involved and hopefully make an improvement in that neighborhood.
I'll contact the owner tomorrow.
This time, do I have a motion to place resolution number 5 on the table then?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
make a motion to place resolution number 5, 2020 on the table.
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Bob Culberson, to place resolution number 5, 2020 on the table. Are there any remarks? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. That's it, Jonathan. Thank you. Auditor, Ms. Prickwick? Nothing? Law Director, Ms. Ms. Van Valkenburg-Walton?
Thank you. I really don't have anything to add to what the mayor's already added about Resolution 5, other than urge its passing. It is consistent with numerous municipalities throughout the state, not just in this area, but also I know Columbus has passed emergency or declared an emergency. Many of the major cities and suburbs of the Columbus area, Franklin County, Delaware County area have all engaged in recent similar activities. If you have any additional questions, I'm happy to field those. Otherwise, I would just say to Peggy, or excuse me, to Mrs. Bettinghouse, I am sorry, I had hoped to have our resolution that you and I had discussed on the table and before you today. Unfortunately, I had some typographical issues. I couldn't get margins and things to work out right, so I'm just going to have to give it to poor Heidi to work on. And then I got busy with the corona-related stuff. So I am still working on it. I'm hoping to get something to Heidi to look at next week and start putting and making it look pretty for you. So I am still working on that, and hopefully we can get it. I can get it to you in another week or so. Okay. Any
Okay.
other questions related to Resolution 5?
Mr. President,
Ms.
I
Bettinghouse?
don't have a question for resolution 5, but if you or Heidi or somebody could just text me when that's in my mailbox, I
Sure.
would be happy to come and pick it up. Thank you, so I can just read through it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further report.
Mr. Stuchel?
Mr. President, just to make sure to take the heat off anyone for, as far as I know, we've been working towards trying to have, of course, a meeting with the Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee. I feel that what's being researched as far as the anti-discrimination ordinance or resolution is necessary, but I also believe that it will need to have time dedicated to it. And in this current situation, I asked that we please cancel the meeting tonight at 6 o'clock with the given circumstances. So that's on me, but we truthfully need to be able to come to the table to discuss this so that it has the necessary time that's to be dedicated to this. I do think it's pretty serious and a worthy cause. And I also, I want to thank Valerie for on demand continually stopping to deal with whatever's needed. So she's doing an incredible job, and I really thank her for everything right now. So again, thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer, Mr. Ungar?
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening I have the statement from First State Bank. Our balance there at the end of last month, February 29th, totaled $5,652.76. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Safety and Service Director, Mr. Paul? No report. Thank you, sir. Tax Commissioner / Administrator, Ms. Helms?
As many of you know, the tax deadline has been changed from April 15th to July 15th. That's for filing and payment in full. As I find out new things from the Treasury Department and from the state of Ohio, I'll pass that along. But for now, it's July 15th for filing and for payment.
Thank you. Move to report to standing committees. Finance, Mr. DeBerke?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Block Watch Shred Day and E-Waste Recycling Day has been canceled for May. We're looking at sometime in the fall if this virus gets out of here. And also, all monthly meetings for Block Watch are canceled until further notice.
Thank you. Safety, Mr. Ray Culbertson.
No report.
Thank you. Service, Mr. Schultmeyer.
No report.
Thank you. Public improvements, Mr. Bob Culbertson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to echo Don, all the CIC meetings have been postponed or canceled until further notice. We will be in touch about any upcoming events as they become prevalent. The other thing, just to remind residents, we are still under the shelter-in-place guidance from the state of Ohio. So I encourage everybody to get out, enjoy the parks, walk on the nice days. Just remember, you are unable to use the swing sets or the play facilities. I saw I guess the service department did a good job of wrapping those up in tape over the maybe last night. I saw those this morning, so I appreciate the service department and all the hard work that they've been doing with this thing going on. But that concludes my report.
Thank you. Laws, contracts, and claims, Ms. Bettinghouse.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have nothing else because thanks to Valerie, she let us know what she's doing to help out with this this ordinance that we're working on. Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you. Marketing, Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to let the public know that we have a special newsletter coming out next week focused on the virus, so that will be released by next Friday. I also want to remind folks that the recreation events that were set for April are canceled. And something to look forward to is the luau dates have been set tentatively, obviously, depending on what happens. Let's hope that it doesn't make it to August. But they are set for Friday, August the 7th, 6 p.m. to 12 a.m., and Saturday, August the 8th, 3 p.m. to 12 a.m., and that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Bob Culbertson.
Real quick, Jonathan just handed me a note that the Heritage Ohio get-together that was scheduled for April 28th and 29th has also been canceled.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. DeBerkey.
April 11th, the Easter Bunny will still be going around handing candy out.
Correct, but nothing
Throwing
else. Keeping his social distancing, his or her. All right. At this time, then, we will have a special council meeting in about approximately 2 minutes to discuss resolution number 5. And I'll make a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole.
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse.
I make a motion to adjourn committee of whole.
Second that.
Motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, seconded by Mr. Ray Culbertson to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Our Father who art in heaven, as a body we congregate in this council chambers for the betterment of our fellow citizens, lead us that we may do all things well. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We'll call the roll. Mr. Taberkey.
Present.
Mr. Ray Culbertson.
Here.
Mr. Schultmeyer.
Present.
Mr. Bob Culbertson.
Here.
Ms. Bettinghouse.
Here.
Ms. Miller.
Here.
And Ms. Housefeld is absent. Let the record show 6 members are present, 1 member is absent. Members of council, well, the clerk's not here, so I will read resolution number 5, 2020 in its entire, a resolution declaring a state of emergency in the village of St. Bernard, state of Ohio, due to the coronavirus disease 2019 outbreak. Members of council, you've heard the first reading of resolution number 5, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Ms.
I
Bettinghouse?
make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of resolution number 5, 2020.
I'll second that.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, seconded by Mr. Ray Culbertson to suspend with the second and third reading of resolution number 5, 2020. Are there any remarks? If not, call the motion on suspension. Mr. Taberkey?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culbertson?
Aye.
Mr. Schultmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culbertson?
Aye.
Ms. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption of resolution number 5, 2020?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 5, 2020.
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Ray Culbertson to adopt resolution number 5, 2020. Call the roll. Mr. Taberkey?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culbertson?
Aye.
Mr. Schultmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culbertson?
Aye.
Ms. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Resolution number 5, 2020 is adopted as read. That concludes the special council meeting on resolution number 5. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. President,
Mr. DeBerke.
first make a motion to excuse the absent member.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. DeBerke, seconded by Ms. Bettinghouse to excuse the absent member. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Mr. Stuchel?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, just to make a quick notation that when we called this special meeting in the beginning, just so that there was not a great way initially to make it so that the public could actively be involved with comments and questions, I did put it out to the community, just so you're aware, that any questions would have to be sent prior to the meeting to my email, and I just wanted you to be aware that we did not get any public comments or questions. So I would have told you and read them all, but just wanted you to be aware that we did not have anything.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President,
Mr. DeBerke?
also like to thank Heidi for coming down and putting it on Facebook.
Thank you. All right. At this time,
Thank you to ICRC as well for coming out and making this work tonight.
correct, yeah. All right. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Mr. Ray Culberson.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second it.
Motion by Mr. Ray Culberson, second by Mr. DeBerke to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Didn't you say?